Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guess what time it is?
It's reaction time. Time to
It's
react.
reaction time. We don't have a theme song. That was terrible.
We have a theme song. We have a wonderful intro animation by
You would
Moving
never
Exposure
know.
Films.
You would never know that Steven and I first met interacting through music.
Oh yes, I'm a very talented singer.
If you only know us from this show, you'd never know that.
Yes, because I didn't beat animal hides with a wooden stick.
Like for paid employment in the field of music. That is where we met.
Yes, I was once a DJ at a historic club, a nightclub, where David did his dealings.
Beats! Drop the beats! Anyway, Steven and I are here. Eric's also here. Boys, how's it going?
It's the Lock-In tournament, baby.
Do you have any turtles in your basements?
Yes. Why?
I don't have a basement. Like I live in a condo.
If you had a basement,
my whole
would you have
place
a turtle in it?
is the basement, and I do not have a turtle in it because my cat would probably attack that turtle.
I feel called out. I do have a turtle in my basement, but I don't get the reference.
Apparently, basement turtles is a Missouri thing.
Oh, shh.
That's all I know.
Dang it! It's named Squirtle. If that helps my case at all.
I got nothing.
Or am I just like a terrible podunk Missourian with turtle basement?
People just judging you from West County.
Oh my god, I can't believe I'm on blast so hard. This is so upsetting.
Let's see. Yeah, so we've had a lot of games in various places of various things. We're gonna take you all around the world. We might. I don't think any of us have watched LCL, so we're gonna skip over most of Asia. But we'll take a big hike. We'll get a lot of the world's major regions talked about. But you know how we do. We're in North America. We got to start with the LCS and the Lock-In tournament. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with the best looking team out there, which happens to be Evil Geniuses.
Right.
Who comfortably have made their way to the semifinals of this tournament, as predicted by myself on this podcast. Not to flex, but we flex. So EG, pretty comfortable win over Golden Guardians in the quarterfinals. This is tangentially related to how other results have gone. Are they the favorites?
No, never.
Eric, are they the favorites? As the unbiased member of this conversation.
Since my team's already been eliminated, shockingly, I guess I can play tiebreaker. So I do think they're the favorites. Although their series here against Cloud9 will really give us some good insight into like how solid I feel about that. Because like this Cloud9 roster, it looks very strong, which is really funny. So I'll be interested to see how this shapes out. But like to me, EG is the favorite going into this. Inspired has looked phenomenal, which is a huge advantage. Danny's looked phenomenal, and Vulcan has looked phenomenal. So like the three roles that you really want looking good right now are all looking good. And Jojo Pune can play Corky and Victor all day long and never be punished. So it seems great for your starting roster.
Just disgusting.
Yeah.
Steven, make the argument why Team Liquid is the favorite to win the tournament.
I am full on like shopping at Burger King. I'm getting in line at the drive-thru.
You disgust.
I'm a flip-flopping SOB on my Burger King going on. I think as long as we don't play Trundle on Santorin, I think we should be fine. I really do like seeing like the Hansama playing over the core setup. So I think as long as they kind of rock that, or at least know when to swap out in the best of, they're allowing swaps in the best ofs, yes?
Oh yeah, they already
They
have.
straight up did swap during theirs,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Yeah, I think
Because they
so.
played Bradley for a game.
They
Yeah,
sure
and
did.
Bradley got to play top tank Akali and looked good, which
Yes.
is it turns out that's his like pocket pick, so it's like really awkward.
There's so many options, so I'm really excited for that. I think just like off of the like we don't know what they're gonna bust out in a best of series, so I think like that's some like nice caliber options to have going into this. I will say that this might be the best iteration of Evil Geniuses, so they're a close second, I'll have to say.
So, like, TL and EG are notionally the favorites going into this to begin with. Both comfortable 2-0s in their quarterfinals over at FlyQuest and Golden Guardians. No disrespect, but that was what it was. All right, Eric, you already mentioned it, but your boys sucked ass. What happened?
So the big commentary that comes out around this is that like Dignitas let 100 Thieves have Caitlyn 2 games in a row, which is like a high ban pick, and 100 Thieves lost on it 2 games in a row, and really what it boils down to, in my opinion, is that 100 Thieves doesn't know how to play the map when you have Huhi on an Enchanter support. So like because like what we saw in game 1 is FBI and Huhi hard shoving the wave, getting it to the turret, trying to abuse pressure, and then getting Jarvan ganked into the oblivion, and then like absolutely getting tossed out of the game. And it turns out when FBI is not in a game as 100 Thieves, you lose. So it was pretty brutal that like they had this bot lane that's specifically designed around punishing bot lane, and they just like died repeatedly to ganks. So like Wild Closer was building huge CS leads and like taking over the enemy jungle in the map. So like it was like a fundamental problem with their read on how to play these comps and understand what to do with the map. It was no individual player. It's the fact that like if you don't have Huhi playing suicide engaged champions, they just don't know what they're doing on the Rift.
Well,
So that was really upsetting.
so then the flip side, because we need to give the props, Dig looked pretty good.
They had a
Dig
better
looked
meta
good.
And
read.
Dig has looked pretty good since River has gotten here, which is a thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and so he's only been with the team for like roughly a week in territory, so that means that like this is really fast coordination. Blue's largely been shot calling, so like here's these players who got a lot of flack who are really stepping up. River looks insane to me. I think that as expected, their jungler is really hecking good. Neo continues to look good. We'll see how long this continues, because I'm curious to see if he has these the post Afro move fall off, where like a lot of these young NA ADCs who look really good with Afro move start not looking as good after Afro leaves. It'll matter more when he doesn't get to have like the 3v2 constantly bot lane, so we'll see how it goes in like these games that follow, but he sure can late game team fight, and that's what they needed him to do in this.
Well, the real thing that popped out for me is this is the best Biofrost has looked in years in these 2 games, because he was like an active detriment to his team at times last year. And he was one of the players on this roster that had pretty serious question marks over him, where like River and Neo, I think we had a pretty good idea of that those were going to be some fundamental pieces of the roster, but Bio, there was some pretty big question marks about. So to see him show out like this, I think was a really big deal.
I think it's insane that like there seems to be a lot of pieces clicking that were not known outside world. So like to go in on these like indications that this team would synergize really well and mesh, like kudos to that as far as like scouting or whatever they do to like onboard new players. Like this seems to like they've clicked rather quickly, and there's going to be payout there. It's just now we have to see the questions of flexibility and going into a draft against TL, which has a lot of flexibility in what they can do, and they might not be as inflexible as 100 Thieves matchup might be.
And then the bottom side of this bracket, we talked briefly about C9 and how they've started to look pretty decent. CLG winning a game against C9 in this is CLG's best result since what year?
2015?
At least 16.
16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like winning one game in a best of 3 in the quarterfinals of the preseason tournament is their best result, arguably, in 5 years. However, it's the I'm going to say the F word here. It's the first glimmer of faith we've seen in a little bit in a CLG roster. Luger and Boom can play, which I think we knew as well as anything from their bit of sub experience they had with 100 Thieves last year. But like that looks like it was a pickup that was a good move.
I did watch the I Will Dominate and Gilhito watch of that game, that whole series, and a lot of what am I saying it right? Is it Gilhito?
Gyoto?
Gyoto? Thank you.
Gyoto, yeah.
Gyoto. A lot of what he said, it was just like, I'm assuming it's coach mentality, but like he's like, you drafted this a little bit better. Like these players would stand up. Jenkins on the gangplank was kind of rough. But it do be like that when you're getting like completely like hard stomped. So
Well, teams have definitely read them very well, which is that it's really easy to abuse the top side of the map. So like they put Jenkins on an island on these like safe weak side picks, and then teams just over index there because he's not been enough support to really be safe. And their mid isn't also pushing enough to create enough pressure for contracts to index that way also everyone knows they're going to be going towards Luger on bot, so it's like they're like highly indexed, teams are reading it very well, and also Jenkins's champion pool is actually actively bad in this meta, which is a problem because like Gangplank I'm pretty sure is like we could check the stats on this, but every game I've
gotta
seen,
be his most played. Like,
well, and every game I've seen Gangplank played this season has been a loss. So
yeah,
like
it's not good.
It's not good right now. And that's like a really awkward spot for him on top side. So they need to find ways to like put him onto champions that fit a bit better with the meta and then index more that side through Contracts' map pressure. Contracts has felt fairly readable on this roster so far in his pathing, which is a bit of a surprise because he was very good on EG at pressuring advantages and playing around vision and creating more. So I wonder if he's having to take more of an active vocal calling role with this younger roster, and that's causing problems. So we'll see how the top side shapes out, but like they have looked very strong.
Yeah, and I think
GP for the record in top leagues thus far is 6-6.
Okay, so 50-50, which ain't bad, but
no.
like I have not seen many winning games.
No, well, I think you just have to play it so smart on the map, the entire thing. Like, you can't just, like, stick someone on Gangplank and then be like, good luck. Not at least in this meta. I do think that, like, it might be a little bit of Palafox as well, needing to step up when, like, you can't have both Jenkins and Palafox being uncomfortable in their situations. I think it was one of them that, like, they left Victor up, and he picked like the Ori or something and like couldn't follow the Corki roams, even though that was an option, that was a playable option. So I think it's some like pre-game discussions about like what is our plan and agreeing to that. That might be something that they can shape up, and then it is just coming down to like getting these players a little bit more experienced as far as working together. But I would like to see going forward into the first little bit of the season here in the mainline season that they are doing more of a like functional composition, like, hey, we have a plan and we're executing on it, rather than just kind of like compiling stuff and then like it's not looking good because it wasn't going to look good.
So all of that said, EGC9, who wins?
I think it's EG pretty handedly.
I'll be the naysayer, I guess, and throw everyone for a loop and say C9's going to win this.
Is this still best of 3, or do we get a full best of 5?
I think it's still best of
5.
I think it's still best of 3, and it's just
and then
best
maybe
of
5 for the final.
It's 5 in final for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure this is still best of 3.
So like there's variability where you could get a result like this. Like the 100 Thieves dig, if they play a best of 5, I think 100 Thieves might be able to flip that around in that many games, for example. But in a best of 3, all you got to do is get 2 drafts right.
Yep.
And so I'm going with C9 for the all you got to do is get 2 drafts right. I think Darshan has been excellent in top lane so far. And Blabber versus Inspired is a really fascinating jungle matchup as far as how players approach the game. So got to watch how that goes.
Yeah, I think this is where we see Blabber start to falter, though, with like the inexperience with his teammates. I'm sensing like a world showing where like Inspired's going to be someone that can push him around, and this is a jungle meta that you don't want to be pushed around, and you don't want to be misread or anything like that. So, and you want your teammates to be doing what you need them to do, as far as like pushing and collapsing and those kind of things, and not getting Jarvan ganked and whatnot. So like, I think this might showcase like the problems with not having your full roster ready to go, and then Blabber really not working well with people that he hasn't had a long time to like build a relationship with.
Other side of the I'm picking EG because I'm both an EG fanboy and think they've looked like the best team in the best form in the tournament. Like it's both.
Live evil.
I think they should win. Other side of the bracket, Steven, TL, or Dignitas.
I'm going to have to go with TL to everyone's surprise. I don't think they have. I think Dig did a really good job against 100 Thieves. I think they knew that there was a weakness and they exploited it really handedly. I don't think you have that luxury with the TL best of, regardless. Like, because you could plan for so many situations. They're like, actually, we're going to play this roster for the first 2. And then it won't even matter what you prepped. So I just think like what they did the best in that 100 Thieves like best of they can't bring that here. They can play well, but they're not going to outplay the talent pool that you have on TM.
Eric, agree or disagree?
I think TL is going to beat Dig pretty convincingly here. We'll see how it goes though, because it is best of 3.
And I agree.
Yeah, Santorin could lock in.
I think have already laid our marks for the final, so I'm not going to bother to make us discuss that. But I hope it is TLEG because I'd love to see the game. It would be really fun.
That'd be a banger, and especially a best of 5.
Yep, would love to see that. My dog also would like to see TL and EG.
It is hype.
That said, any other NA thoughts? Anybody stand out particularly to you guys before we move on elsewhere in the world?
Immortals looked very suspect for having a veteran roster. This is a control mage meta, and PoE looked like completely lost on the map. That's not what I expect. Xerxes didn't coordinate with PoE exceedingly well, which is also surprising because they have a lot of same team experience over the years. So Immortals looks very suspect, and so I wonder how they'll hold together without having their coaching staff from last year, and if this is a sign that that's going to get completely overhauled in the offseason.
I just want to like double back on the Darshan comment. I think that's a really big showing, and if he's not going to be main roster, which he's not, I think one of the lower bracket teams need to like start offering him some gifts or some favors or something to get their eye.
Part of why I think that C9's gonna, the meme reason for C9 winning this is because the absolute joy of C9 winning Lock-In tournament with this roster, and then Berserker and Summit showing up, and then the team like doesn't look good with this like mixed roster for like the first few weeks because Blabber and Fudge have been playing with Darshan and friends. Like that to me is like prime dank timeline where like you have these like threads on Reddit, both of people praising LS, but then also like being absolutely trashing on this roster and saying bring Darshan back. Like that's prime timeline material right there.
Isles is good. Like, if we're gonna talk about C9 people, I've been telling y'all, Isles is good.
Isles is good. Sven still looks like he can play. Like Darshan's great. Like this roster is like top 5, which is really funny.
Yep. No, like I've been saying that for years. Isles is good. I'm glad he's getting this chance to play. All right. That said, we're gonna hop our way across the old Atlantic Ocean to take a look over at the LEC. I want to talk about Vitality first because it hasn't worked yet.
Nope.
They had a really rough first week, so they went 0-3 and then they went 2-0. So it's like, it's really funny. They're still figuring out how to play on the Rift. They looked pretty good in some of their games this past week. They had a bit of draft diff and they had a bit of Alfari diff. So like we'll have to see how things shape up from here. But like it's like it's the usual like how do self-made and perks play on the map? Because like man, some of their drafts week 1 were absolute trash. And so like you really have to try and figure out and balance. Like Perks himself called out. It turns out when I play Akshan mid into Diana Yasuo, we lose games. Who knew?
I'd like to note, by the way, that pick is the only time Akshan has been picked in mid lane in the top 4 leagues, and I think there's a reason for that.
That exact moment.
I went to look up those stats, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yikes.
It's the
Like-
only one.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like the 0-3 first week was notable, but you feel good about them moving forward then?
Oh, they're definitely trending upwards. Karzi hasn't looked like trash, and Lombrov like actually seems like he has hands. So that's really, to me, that still is the main question surrounding this team. This is actually not a terrible self-made meta. So like it'll be interesting to see how they shape up and move forward over progression, because like their solo lanes are just so good. I don't like, this is definitely a top 5 team. Based off of what I've seen so far. Like, I expect Vitality to trend up, Mad Lions to trend down, and then other things are more up in the air.
Steven, did you have any Vitality thoughts?
I only caught like a little bit of that first week, and it was really bad. So I just like, boy howdy.
But like it's got I mean, as you would expect, it's got a little bit of the G2 to it. So when they look bad, they look really bad.
Yeah, like and right now it doesn't matter for sure, and I'm sure they'll come out and look like the best team for a couple months. But like at the same time, it's just like I wish some of those things were a little bit more consistent, especially if like you want steady growth. Like ideally, I would assume like your team can like start wherever you want on the line, and then as they play together and as they understand the meta and shifts, it goes up. But this like it's not really ideal when you're talking about like a world's performance or like being competitive on the international stage, where you want to be at this roster. You don't assemble this and be like, oh, well, we didn't make it to Worlds this year, but, like, we're going to sure try next year. Like, you don't do that. You don't shell out the cash for this team and then not place really well.
Yeah, this is Worlds or bust. It has to be.
Yeah.
Eric, pick another team. Who has impressed you or disappointed you in the LEC?
Impressed or disappointed? So I mentioned them already. I'm a little disappointed with Mad Lions. And it's weird to say when they're 3-2 versus, you know, Vitality used 2-3, but like Mad Lions is being hard carried by Elyoya and Armut right now as far as their wins, like where they have been babysitting tremendously for Reeker and for I always get some of these new players mixed up. I think it's Unforgiven in the bot lane for them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Unforgiving.
So
Kaiser.
Unforgiven-
Or he's Rogue. He might be Rogue.
No, Rogue is Comp, who's a veteran actually.
Oh,
So like so like Reeker to me looks highly suspect at this point in time, and so Unforgiven looks okay, but like their mid lane looks exceedingly weak and is only in this because Elyoya has been hard babysitting to make sure that they stay in games, and after Vitality knows what they're doing, I don't think Mad Lions has a chance of beating Vitality, Fnatic, Rogue, or Rogue in like late game stages of this tournament. So like I really think that the top three is pretty secure as those three teams, with Rogue, even though they're top of the standings, in my opinion, being the weakest one right now. And then there's like this middle of the pack couple of three teams. There's like three teams who are going to make playoffs, and they're sliding down from top three into that.
Funny
So
you
I'm
should say
disappointed.
that. I want to talk about Rogue because I'm
Yeah.
drinking the Kool-Aid again.
Oh no.
They've played some shit teams so far, man.
And they've also beaten the shit out of them, which other good teams have not done. Like, there's a certain thing to be said about, and this is like carrying over from other sports, but it's very applicable to these teams, particularly as we get deeper into the splits. You have to do your job and beat the bad teams. If you don't, you do worse in the standings. See TSM last year. Like, you have to beat what's in front of you on a given day, and Rogue has comfortably done that. They happen to have players with the best KDAs in almost every role. Malrong has looked actually good at an LEC level, which is interesting. He hasn't, as you said, played the hardest matchups yet. And Odo Omne has also looked excellent, which is predictable. The stat that's hilarious is no member of 2021 Rogue has lost a game yet this spring on all their new teams.
Well, and I think that's what I'll go into is like looking at just like their champion priorities and how they're drafting like against lesser teams. They're still like taking the best champions and they're taking the best matchups that they can get and running with it. So that like goes into like the education of like what is like the state of the meta, what are we going to like prioritize and work with as far as our compositions and how we're going to play our game. That is a trait that takes you far, and it especially takes you out of the typical LEC middle of the pack squabble that we have right before playoffs. It happens every year. So I understand like the Kool-Aid, it smells good, but I think there is some substance to it as well. It's just like there's a showcase here beyond just raw skill, but just like
and the style contrast I think is going to be very interesting when they do play Fnatic, which I don't know if that's this week or the week after, because like Rogue's top side and mid lane has been very strong and is the very strong part of their team, where Fnatic's bot lane has looked like the best bottom lane in the West, maybe. Like
Pretty definitively, actually.
Like they're pretty fucking good at the game. I was looking at KDAs earlier. Upset has a 27 KDA on the split so far through 5 games.
They have a very clear game plan.
And they know how to play together.
And they ain't getting teleported on.
Yep. So like Fnatic also being 5-0, playing around Upset and Hilly, like that is a very clear game plan and has been very effective because they're very good.
Yeah, and that's the game state that I like to see the most is like teams that work well together have a lot of options as far as the draft. Like we don't have some like absolutely bonkers broken stuff that like force into a certain play style. Like there's some like there's a pretty like stagnant meta I guess right now with just as far as like prioritizing bot lane, making sure Renekton is like kind of monetized in some certain way, weaponizing your mid lane in the right way. But teams that are choosing to opt into it have the opportunity to play well with it. So that's a healthy game state in my opinion, and that's where we're going to see the teams that work well together perform better rather than just like, oh well, we got this dude that knows how to play the game, he's going to like insulate us from our weaknesses.
Other thing I wanted to hit XL already making a roster swap is interesting 2 weeks into the season. the commentary that breaking up a pre-built bot lane that they brought in for this and breaking up Marcoon Advien might not actually be an advantageous move. We're gonna have to see how this one plays, but like
Mickey?
they bought Mickey from G2 and dropped Advien. So I am interested to see how this works both in game and out of game, because it seems like the out of game side of this might be more interesting on the Excel side of the fence.
Do they have like staff? Like I've not heard like here or there about their staffing like situations as far as like, oh yeah, they have a great staff.
They have one of the people who used to be with Schalke as like the director of eSports or whatever it is. I'm not sure who their coaching staff is though.
Young Buck.
Is it Young Buck?
Yeah, who's like built and managed this roster for like since they did the rebrand.
So they're keeping Patrick and then putting in Mick. No, who are they?
Mark. They don't
Mark?
have Patrick anymore.
Well, okay. Markun's the jungler. So.
Oh, never mind. Oh, that's what it is. Jungle support. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Markun Advien was like the jungle support duo they brought in with Nuke Duck, which really created advantages when they did like the huge switch last year. This year it hasn't been going as well. So I'm wondering if this Mickey trade was already in the works, because there have already been disconnects in communications for them. I don't like Finn on their top side, which makes this roster vulnerable in some ways. But like Markun's also struggled with this meta. I don't think this is a good pathing meta for him in particular. So we'll see how it goes. You'd think they'd be good because Patrick is very good. So like so this should be a good Excel meta, but it hasn't been. That's the question marks. So I'm wondering if this has been in the works, and so the team was struggling. We'll see.
Well, and the problem is, like, if you look at even this early how the standings are sitting, if you drop as Excel and Vitality goes up as you might expect them to, there's 6 teams in the playoffs and 4 teams outside of them. And if Excel doesn't step it up, that kind of seems like that might be the 6 that we see at the end of the split.
It looks like a lock to me. So
like that's like, it kind of feels like it.
So like a part of this Mickey move might be them seeing that too and also feeling the hate.
Because yeah, like BDS has looked bad.
BDS and Astralis are both terrible. So like there's a clear bottom 3. and then I think that Excel also fits in that group as like the not playoff group.
Yeah.
And so unless something drastic changes, that's how it's going to shape out.
It seems like there's a pretty clear stratification already, which is all kind of a shame, but like we'll see how it plays out.
It's so frustrating for Astralis because like Zanzara and White Knight both look great, but they're great supporting pieces and they have nothing to play with. Absolutely nothing. And so what do you do with this roster?
Watch it go like 3 and 15 again.
Yeah.
I do have questions about Misfits, though. We didn't really touch on them. I heard like their losses looked really bad and their wins looked okay. Is that like valid?
That's exactly what they've looked like, yeah.
Okay, so that might be something that kind of goes into like seizing your opportunities, especially like if like those really bad losses become even worse losses against the wrong teams. Like Astralis picking up a win. Where would it be? Who would it be against? Someone like Misfits fits that bill to me.
They're definitely punishable. Here it looks incredible though. So that's my concern with like the bottom table teams taking them on, is Here it and Vethio both look really strong right now.
Well, and it's also like if we go by the tier system, Misfits have beaten who they were supposed to beat and lost to who they're supposed to lose to. Their 2 losses are to Fnatic and Rogue. Their 3 wins are over Excel, BDS, and Astralis. Like, they are exactly where they are supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah, like, it kind of seems like they are a little bit go as Vethio goes. Because he had 3 really good games, which they won, and 2 worse games, which they didn't win.
They need both solo lanes to be good, is really what it boils down to.
Yeah, and G2's been running Targamas, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
They so one of their losses with Flackid and Targamas was they played was it Caitlyn Zyra bot lane, I think is what it was. And Selfmade
what?
ganked level 2 and then absolutely snowballed that game out of control. Honestly, it doesn't matter what they played it
Yeah,
into.
true.
The
Yeah.
point is you bully the crap out of them with plants and with traps and with Caitlyn Qs, and you just like shove them under turret. And Selfmade ganks level 2, and then they just like snowballed. They killed Targamas like 6 times really fast in lane, and then just like ended the game. And so like it was pretty brutal. This team looks okay, not great.
Is it worse than prior iteration of G2? That was.
Yes, it's worse than prior. It's worse than prior iterations of G2. However, even last year before Worlds, people are like, G2's still probably just going to randomly win the split here. This year, I would say that G2's still going to make playoffs and be a Worlds contender. I'm not going to say
they're like
they're gonna randomly
they're not in the top tier.
right.
Like,
And because like Capset doesn't look phenomenal. Their bot lane is okay, but it's not stellar. And then like Broken Blade's champion pools like really skew their map play yet again into like a very predictable pattern. And so like it'll be interesting to see how like the regular season shapes out, because we'll get a lot more reps where we can see what they can accomplish with comps. But like they look playoff team, maybe Worlds contender, but I don't expect them to win the split.
yeah, like does LEC get 4 spots?
Oh.
Because if LEC gets 4 spots,
I don't know if that's going to happen again or anymore.
I also don't. But that's the question, right?
If
Because
the Vietnam teams actually get to go, like I don't think they're going to get 4 spots anymore.
Because if it's 3, which it probably is,
Yeah.
Fnatic, Rogue, Vitality.
And it's pretty clear cut in my opinion.
And as previously stated, it would be a horrendous failure for Vitality to not be one of those spots, and they look like the least safe one.
That's where I'm kind of leaning towards. I think that I don't think Vitality is as secure as one would hope. I think they're actually very
but that's the whole
risk.
point,
Yeah.
right? They have to be. So I will be interested to see how it develops, but I'm not worried about Vitality yet, even though that first week was hilariously bad.
Alfari tends to choke in finals, and that's a good thing for getting a world spot. So
well, and like that's the same thing as like, speaking of Kool-Aid and going back to Kool-Aid, regular season Rogue is regular season Rogue.
Yeah.
However,
in a best of series, like we'll see, because like Larson is one of the players who falls off.
Joke
Yeah.
goes here.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of teams looking worse than they are supposed to look thus far in the season, let's go over to the LCK for a little bit, because that one's been kind of bad early season. They're only 2-2 and have not been particularly impressive.
Paint me a picture. What's going on?
It's they haven't been playing that well.
They're just playing poorly. They should play better.
I mean, like,
that's some next level analysis, my guy.
like they beat KT and Bro, who are 2 bottom table teams, and lost to Genji, who's top of the table, and lost to Nongshim, who's good. Them being 2-2 thus far probably looks worse than it is. They're probably still top 3, but like based on the early season, T1 looks incredible. Genji looks incredible, as good as they've looked. Damwon don't look like a top contender right now. Like, the main takeaway from Korea thus far is Faker's back.
Oh man, not again.
So a little bit back, like he never left.
So do we see Dumb1 do all their shuffling? Not necessarily role slot, but like player
Not
shuffling, or
yet.
just okay.
Like, they don't look bad, right? Like, They've
Or
kind
so
of
they
done
should.
what they're supposed to do, but
How's
it was
how's Birdall doing in top lane? Because it's Birdall now, right? The Aurelia one trick,
yeah.
who's like their top laner. So like, has that side of the map been doing okay? I don't really have as many concerns about Kellen Docdom and on bot side. I care more about like how's their top laner doing. Because that's what Canyon really needs to thrive, is like strong solo lanes.
They've played half.
Oh, have they been subbing top laners?
I
Because
was
like,
gonna say Birdall's played 4 games, and then who else are they playing? I should know this and I don't.
Oya is the other name I see
And
on their
maybe
roster
that's
page.
what's looking at
Yeah.
why they're not performing well. If Canyon isn't in a place where he can flourish, like, you're not going to look as good as you should when all your players are playing well and everybody has optimum like situations to play to. And Canyon can be one of those players that, if he's not in his best like situation, he can look bad. He can be exposed. He does bleed.
Well, and that's so that's the easy thing to point to, right? So if we're just looking pure KDA, nothing else, of are they the only team that's sub top laners? Yeah, so they're the only team that's sub top laners. So 11 top laners have played thus far in LCK. They have the 9th and 10th KDAs.
Owie.
So
How the hell
Doofy.
are Sword, Dorn, and Morgan still like starting top laners? And Dorn 5-0.
Because it sounds like everyone else isn't really doing great.
Yeah, well, like that's the problem, right? You have like Zeus and Kana, who are just better than everyone else, and then nothing else matters. Like Rascal's stuck playing for KT and has been bad. Keen has not been able to carry. Like Guangdong Freaks have looked terrible, which is a thing.
So
compared to like previous considerations about how stuff has gone.
So the reaction time diagnosis on Korea is like, get your top laners in order. Like,
well, yeah, well, it's just the pool is not strong right now for top laners in Korea, which that's part of like the top 2 teams have the top 2 best top laners.
see some LPL imports in Korea at the split here, or
Well, like some of the Korean top laners in LPL could come back, would be one option, but like they didn't for reasons, probably money.
monetary
Um,
reasons.
So, gotta figure it out there. Because like the Shy is probably quite content with where he is right now in life. So gotta figure it out from there.
We'll talk about him in a bit. We'll get there. Man, like I'm happy for Nongshim because what the Nongshim thing is, I talked a lot about this team all year last year and how good they were being built around Peanut and Peanut being good. And now like Peanut went to go play for Gen.G, which is great. He looks really good and they look really good. There's nothing wrong with that. I felt bad for Nongshim. However, Nongshim made some smart pickups. They picked up Kana and Dread and BDD and Ghost, which is the spice of Damwon losing a best of 3 to Nongshim and Ghost was a very interesting early season result because that was the thing that got changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was part of the game.
Sark.
So like I'm happy to see Nongshim still doing well even after having their roster get kind of swapped out from under them. There's like we talked about the stratification in the LEC. I think it's almost worse in Korea because there's only like maybe 4 good teams.
Oof.
The bottom of the league's really bad.
That's so interesting that because like Korea hasn't really like bolstered up like the team count as much as like China, obviously.
Well,
Um,
the LPL has almost twice as many teams. Like,
yeah, and
and don't get
just
me wrong, we're gonna talk about it in a little bit. There are some really bad LPL teams.
I'm just so curious what like is creating this like talent like drought, especially in Korea. Because I feel like this might just be my perspective, but like North America seems
So
to be like like getting some talent like pools like starting and funneling people up. Like we're seeing the very big success with EG and those kind of opportunities that they're
I'll let
creating for
Eric go
them.
first, but I have a take here.
well, a part of it is that one of the top 3 top laners in LCK last split is currently not playing on any roster because he's supposed to be playing on Cloud9 right now, but he can't get to North America. So like that's one of the big things that we should talk about with Korean talent right now is like they're getting poached from like the league below the Challenger League feeding into pro from other regions for talent from China and from America now and slightly to a also Damwon's jungler going to Rogue is crazy. And so this is almost a second diaspora, only it's not as noticeable because it's not Faker, it's not Chovy, it's not Deft again. It's like it's the players who going to that mindset theoretically could become them, who are now starting to get really drained into these other leagues. So like it's really hard to say. Like people still put a high premium on Korean talent as far as like the player market goes. It's just that people are looking earlier and doing a better job scouting now, so it's really spreading people out. Um, that's what it is, and like also people have serious questions about the Korean general managers for these teams, and maybe not making the best decisions. So we'll have to see how that shapes up too.
Well,
Because
and there's like that's kind of the train that I was going to go down is Korea's got a little bit of the NA of about 2 years ago smell to it, where they might be playing some people they shouldn't be playing and playing their young talent instead. Like it's there's a few people who are in the league who it's like, is there really not somebody in challengers who you would rather get game time in the LCK?
when I see a roster with both Sword and Morgan for top lane, it's like that's a mistake. That is an active mistake.
Yeah,
You should
like
have one and then someone who's not Sword or Doran or Morgan. And
and
like
like not I the other joke I could make here is every good young Korean player is already a T1 trainee. That's a lot of them. You can buy one of those
They come in a nice
and
little
get one and put
package.
it on your team. Like that's the thing. Like Berserker, for example, we're talking about the C9 imports, right? Berserker was playing in LCKCL and is getting imported to NA. Like I have to imagine HLE could probably try to buy a young player from a Korean challenger team and give it a spin. But I don't know. The I didn't really plan to spend this time talking about the bottom of the LCK, but it does worry me because like it's Chinese teams are better right now, even as good as Gen G and T1 look.
Well,
I think the LPL teams are better.
I think it's fascinating to talk about the lesser teams, especially when we're talking about like the health of the sport. Like I'll fall back on my age-old fear of like how long does this go for? Like we cleared the 10-year mark, which was always my first threshold. It's like clear the first 10 years, you'll automatically get another 10 years. Like that was always kind of my mindset. Like just looking at the health of the ecosystem. Now that we're into it a little bit and we're seeing like, okay, the talent pool can really support only X amount of people, are we staring at the barrel of it ending at that 20-year mark? I don't think so personally, but I think it begs the question is like if you're not investing in the whole league, like all your teams that are buying these slots and participating, if they're not putting it out there, you're going to be a detriment to the league and the ecosystem of the entire sport, my opinion.
um, the the transition I will make is the another import that departed the LCK went to an LPL team. I did not have on my bingo card at any time in the last 2 years that I would watch a game last night where Rich gave the Shy the worst experience of his life in lane. It was game one of the Weibo against V5 series, and it was Rich was on Akshan into the Shy playing Graves. The Shy died twice in 4 minutes and had to go back another 2 times.
Was he playing Gangplank?
He was playing Graves.
Basically.
It was supposed to be a lane bully, like is very specifically a counter pick.
And he got slapped. Which I never would have seen coming in a million years. And I like Rich, but like, damn.
The Shy things. It's like
it is very much the Shy
It do
things,
be the
but like
Shy
still
things.
though. So the LPL is in a fascinating state. I do want to start at the bottom here because I know we had some soft spots in our heart, particularly in Eric's heart for Team WE last year, and oh boy, they're the only team without a win in the league.
what's so sad about it is you still see sparks in some of the games
Because
that
they still have the players that were doing this.
Like Shanks is still surprisingly good when he shouldn't be. And their team coordination still looks solid, but then they've been falling apart in these series. I still think they're better than teams 13 through 16 in the rankings.
I strongly agree because all of those teams are terrible.
But yeah, they've been really struggling.
I can't believe anyone's legend won a game. They're so bad.
Was it against TT? I'm pretty sure it was against TT.
It was against TT. That's the problem.
Yeah, because that TT is the team I want to talk about in the Indians, because this team is winning in gold at 10 minutes most of the time, and then loses every game. It is incredible. It is absolutely astounding. Like you mentioned in a tweet how like Puff and Southwind have been boosted since they arrived, and I've been watching Puff and Southwind be winning lanes, getting 2 kills against a lot of these teams, and then they die. They just die. And they have no clue what to do on the map. They have like Chemtech Soul in like one of the games against anyone's legends, and then Puff like walks up towards a turret and just gets like killed immediately. And then like the game stalls out for like another 20 minutes for them to win the game from there. And it's like, this is incredible how they can throw anything, like absolutely anything. It's miraculous. They're one of my favorite teams to watch, not because they're good, but because it's like, all right, how are they going to lose this? You know, what's going to go wrong here? How hard does Maple have to 1v9 to get his team to win a best of? Against DT. It's so funny. Yeah.
And a little depressing. Anyway, speaking of a little depressing, let's talk about top esports in at 2-2, because Knight's still really good. This team just can't get out of its own way ever.
Zoom, I think, feels like he's in an alternate reality right now. You know, like, what's happening here? I'm unclear what's going on. Why is Jackie Love walking forward at the enemy team when we have advantage on this Drake fight? I don't know. I guess I'm supposed to follow and engage with my Kennen ult, even though they can see me coming from the front, because I thought we were just doing this.
Sometimes you just gotta run it down with the homies. Like
I'm supposed to be flanking and supplying this ult, but Jackie Love has already flashed forward at the enemy team. What's going on? It really feels like Zoom doesn't quite embrace the top esports mentality fully.
Like, and this is the thing with them. Like they got 0-2'd by a Rare Atom team that isn't as good as they used to be to start the season off, and have struggled to beat other bottom-ish teams in Ultra Prime and WE. and then lost a hilarious banger of a series to V5. They have 3 players who arguably at various times in the last 3 years have been the best players in the world at their roles in their solo lanes and AD carry, and yet are pretty fucking mid-tier.
I think a part of it, and this is a bit of a speculation, I think a part of your advantage factor of Knight being so freaking good is lost when he's in Victor Corki mirrors or whatever.
Yeah.
Because him randomly pressing forward and inting on Corki isn't as good for you as it was when he was on mid Nocturne or Galio. So it's like they're suffering a bit based off of what's in the meta, because his Corki doesn't look good to me. It looks very sus.
You know who's good at Victor?
Rookie?
Let's talk about LNG.
Oh, yeah, Doinby. Yeah,
Doinby's really good at Victor. It's one of his best champions.
We jumped right up to the top of the standings.
No, fuck the middle. We're talking about Doinby now. It's Doinby hour. Here's my stats on LNG, because I was looking up stats on them, because I'm like, I didn't feel like they'd been that good, but all of a sudden they're 5-0, which is the same thing Eric said. Eric had no idea they were 5-0 when we were doing prep for this. LNG's kill participation scores. Tarzan has the highest kill participation of any jungler in the league. Doinby has the highest kill participation of any mid laner in the league. These 2 things are not surprising. It's what their entire team is built around. Ale has the lowest kill participation of any top laner in the LPL.
I'm doing my part.
Really is an island, because man, so a part of why I don't think this team is 5-0 when you mention this is that I have seen them throw so many bot lane dives. They run these set plays. They're definitely set plays where Tarzan ganks mid, and then he and Doinby walk to bot lane, and 4 people dive the bot lane tower, and then promptly they all die. And so it's they pick up 1 kill for 4, and then they win this game. And then it's how do you keep getting away with this? Where you have this clear set play that fails every time, but you still just do it anyway, and then you end up winning because the other team sucks, and it's and it just keeps happening. It's marvelous, but they definitely have these set plays. I'm curious to see how long Ale lasts on this team, because I'm wondering if, kind of like Zoom on top esports, if he's just at some point wonders what the hell is going on down there.
Part of the supposition here is that Lumao is bad.
Lumao is in fact quite bad.
Lumao is bad, and that's I think going to be a thing that is a conversation point around this team for the entire season, because I don't know if they're going to sub him out.
He and Doinby are great friends. They love their timings.
Yep.
This is.
Yep.
They've built the team to do this, and they're still winning. They're gonna keep doing it.
They're gonna keep doing it. That's the thing. But it's the thing. I jumped to the top of the table. So LNG and EDG, world champions, are the 2 undefeated teams left in the LPL. EDG are still good. They've played 4 terrible teams. The best team EDG has played of their 4 is OMG, who are fine.
But you have to beat the teams. We have to beat the teams.
And it's just I'm looking through the KDAs. Every EDG member has the top KDA in the league at their role. All of them. All 5 of them.
Sometimes you just gotta farm stats. 2-0'd
all but 1 series. They're just smashing people. Oh, they've played no one good. Okay. So, it's funnier because everybody else has lost a game other than these 2 teams. So EDG is just out here showing out, stomping what they should, and LNG is here being an LPL team and being a Doinby team, and that makes me happy.
So when is the first EDG test? When are we gonna have a better litmus read on?
Let's go look.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to sneak in a plug. You can go to the Funky store and get funky merch like this nice nostalgia tee. You want to wear it. You want to wear it to be comfortable. And you want to buy it from the store, funky.store. You should follow us on social media as at Funky Games. We're everywhere. We're doing stuff. We're doing podcasts. We're doing Let's Plays. We're doing hot takes. We're doing product plugs. Like you should watch those things. We really appreciate it, and it helps me sleep at night like a wee babe. Buy Funky merch. Was that enough time?
Probably their Weibo series on the 15th of
The
February.
15th of February because the Chinese New Year break.
Yeah. Okay, I was about to say it's gonna take that long before we get a qualified.
They have 2 weeks. Like I think it's either like today or tomorrow is the last thing. Okay, yeah, here we go. It takes until March for them to really be tested, but in March they go Billy into LNG into Billy LNG are 2 of their last 3 games of the spring split. So like we're gonna have to wait for it, but it's gonna be right at the end of the season. Those are gonna be 2 really, really good games in 2 months.
Make sure you're subscribed so you know when that video goes up.
Yeah, like well this is the LPL problem is like it's Lunar New Year time, so the games at 3 and 5 a.m., which is in 5 hours from now, are the last set of games for 2 weeks in the LPL. And it's actually like, if you happen to see this before these games happen, Top OMG and RNG Billy are both actually good matchups. But that's it for until February 10th. So we probably will skip some LPL time over our next episode or 2 because it's going to be about what we just talked about, and that's about it. Before we're done, Eric, did you have any other LPL teams you wanted to talk about since I skipped over the entire middle section of the table?
We talked about the trash and the cream of the crop. So we can talk about cream next time.
Okay. Brief meta thoughts. Is Vex a bait pick?
No. It depends on your skill level. How's that sound? Like, if you're a bad player and you can't hit your ultimate ability when you need to hit it, and you get tricked into picking it, and you get, like, your ankle's broken, you got
36% win rate over 28 games.
So what's the win rate specifically in LPL? Because I think it's higher. And the reason I am saying this is that I have a sneaking suspicion that certain leagues have a much lower win percentage than others. Like NA.
Don't know what you mean.
What you mean, bro?
So, like, I think it can be a bait pick. Like, the big...
7-7 in the LPL.
Yeah, so it's 50-50 in the LPL. Like, it's higher in certain leagues than others. And, like, the reason its win rate is so low is partly because of what Steven's talking about, but also partly because of, like, Drake fights matter a lot in this meta, and your team better know how to Drake fight with a Vex in it. And a lot of teams have looked very bad at how to prepare for fights with Vex. So
I found the problem, and it's not NA.
Is it EU or
EU? Vex is 0-5. Yeah. Korea Vex is 1-5.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So like certain leagues have different win rates.
It's all according to script. New character. We're having worlds in NA.
Vex is because like Vex has looked good in the LPL when even if you aren't hitting your skill shots every time, if the game state gets chaotic enough, it's really strong. But if you're playing more like stable comps and then you're getting to these places where you're team fighting around Dragon every time or something, it looks bad. And like these teams haven't looked good with it too. There are also, I think there are really good counterplay champions in LEC, team-wise against the Vex pick, which has led to some things which we aren't seeing in LPL as much. So like, it gets interesting.
Much lower presence than the Vex. Top Akshan is 4-3 across the. Actually, it's Akshan is 4-3. Top Akshan is 4-2 in the top 4 leagues thus far. What have you thought of the pick and what you've seen of it?
I mean, it looks fine. A part of
Darshan is half of that sample, by the way.
Yeah, a part of why Akshan isn't good is because of like the specific prevalence of Gwen plus Xin Zhao, and so like if teams can pick Gwen instead, they've been doing that, and then like teams like playing safe things into Gwen or playing like Jace, because Poke is really strong right now because of the Corki comps. So teams are opting towards Poke, and Akshan is not Poke. Akshan is side lane split push pressure, and so like it's a really strange spot. Team fighting isn't the best, especially when the enemy team has Xin Zhao plus Gwen. So you don't do any damage for approximately 20 seconds of combat. And it makes things difficult, is I guess where I'm ending up at. Graves at least is short range, so he can do damage to Gwen and to Xin Zhao because you're inside of their AoE bubble nonsense.
And I
So
feel
like circle comps are strong, Poke is strong. Neither of these involves Akshan. So it's
What's
not that
funny
he's
is
bad, it's that it's just he's not like in these strong things.
you skipped over the fat man.
Gragas?
Gragas is the second highest picked top laner.
well,
right
I want
now.
to talk like that's when you would want, because I feel like Akshan is like just a more attractive Quinn kind of like Quinn? Yeah. Jeez, I forgot the champion's name. Quinnifer, the bald eagle champion, where you can bully and split push and then get back to the team fight or those kind of things. So Gragas into Akshan, like I could see, like I kind of want to be the Akshan if I have the right team around that. But like I think people are like blind picking the Akshan, and that doesn't make sense to me personally. And then it doesn't go into your comp, and it's just like, but Gragas being the tank like island pick is awesome. I love that.
Gragas has also been a high blind pick top lane option. So Gragas and Gwen are like the two blind pick top lanes that teams have opted for. Or doing flex nonsense with Akali, which hasn't worked out very well. So like that's kind of like the top lane, the two blind pickable top laners that have good results. Since Renekton should be banned every game. 100 Thieves looking at you. And so like you just kind
has
of
been in most of them.
Yeah. 100 Thieves looking at you. Just like give Fake God his best champion and counterpick with Gnar, who's completely out of meta because someday likes it. It's thrilling. It'll work perfectly. Nothing could go wrong.
The winning bans are Caitlyn, TF, Renekton, and LeBlanc have been banned over 100 times thus far in Spring Split each.
And you feel bad because you don't know, like I wouldn't know how to like balance TF in this kind of situation. And like Renekton is just like going to be that the bar that he is. So it's just hard to balance around these specific characters. LeBlanc, I guess you could just gut into oblivion again. But
there are champions that can be picked into Renekton. It's just that the rest of the meta hasn't shaped up that way. I believe personally that Corki nerfs is the best thing you can do to fix this meta, because like Corki is the real problem.
Yep.
And you need to nerf that so that the mid lane champion pool opens up, because then poke comps won't be as prevalent because you can't just get Corki every single game. That to me is the number one thing to do to fix this meta. TF being good is like questionable, but TF will just be good because of the teleport changes. I'm curious when Shen top starts entering the picture, because Shen should be really good right now. It's just not been quite what teams are ready to do.
So I gave you the three over 100 bans. Trivia, can you name the three over 100 picks?
Jinx.
That's one.
Is it also Aphelios?
That's two.
And then Corki.
Nope.
Xin Zhao?
Xin Zhao.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Xin Zhao's been picked more than either of the ADCs, but both the ADCs are over 100 as well.
Yeah.
Corki has higher presence because he's also been banned
Yeah.
more. But Jinx, Aphelios, and Xin Zhao have gotten through the most.
Because you almost have to like anticipate those, because you can't knock out what we're talking about as far as like the required bans and then add these on top and then just have no plan otherwise. Like you got to pick something to plan for and allow it through. And I think the Jinx is the correct one. Corki maybe not. I don't know. I getting my cheeks clapped by a Corki often enough is not a great feeling. So what? I guess people are just doing the Victor into it pretty much, right? And being successful.
So people have started going towards Orianna now. So Orianna into it, and then specifically having an engaged champion with the Orianna, because Orianna bullies Corki in lane.
Okay.
That's been the more recent counter pick that has seen some modicum of success. It's very much about early game though, and so then you need other solutions later on. The other good thing that the Orianna does do though is if you slow down Corki enough, some teams are just bad enough that they don't know how to poke before dragon fights, and they just go in, and then you can win. But yeah, it's like been the Orianna's like the more recent counter that showed up. Victor's the main one.
Yeah. There's a little bit of Syndra floating around. There's a little bit of Silas floating around.
Syndra has mainly been an answer to Vex because you outrange Vex. But
Just
yeah,
clicking through.
And Silas just has a lot of skill expression, so it's hard to like discount him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like it's more interesting when stuff gets banned. So like in the LCK games last night, we had, I assume Corki was banned in all of these games. We had a Victor and Ryze game. We had an Azir and Ryze game, or Azir and Victor game. Got a Ryze and Orianna game.
Rookie's also played Azir. Azir's another control mage option who's pretty decent right now. As far as picks go, he's just not been able to get in with Corki suppression on the mid lane meta.
Which is surprising to me, because historically Azir is the pick into the Corki, so I guess the itemization issues, or...
Well, and how the team fights play out.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't do very well into some of these picks, or like stopping the big threats. So you have to like have a good comp for the Victor, or sorry, for the Azir, more so than Victor, as far as how it's worked out.
And like the Tryndamere pick is still floating around a little bit, which
The
I get
Faker
the
game.
theory of it, because it doesn't matter if you poke me out if I don't die and can just come kill you. But and also I'm glad that the Diana Yasuo combo has been floating around as a possibility as well. Not that I have any particular love for Yasuo, but that just makes sense to do if you've got players that can pull it off, and Diana's still a solid pick.
It's fun to watch, not so fun to experience.
It's fun to watch. It makes your team comp make sense because it brings AD and AP just as a built-in package, and their kids synergize really well together. Like, the lane just kind of sucks. So there you have it. We've talked for a long time. We're not going to talk about itemization tonight. Buy merch. Check the videos. Steven, what you playing?
I'm feverishly trying to beat Brilliant Diamond before my Arceus copy shows up, because I feel like a horrible human being for like not being able to run through that game with my schedule, and then buying Arceus right away because that game looks really, really fun. I want that game. I want to play that game.
Eric, what you playing?
I've been trying out Zeri. I like the tanky build. It's fun.
Eric and I played some games the other night, and the Zeri won when the Zeri got through picks and bans, was how it tended to work. When Eric got to be Zeri, we won. When Zeri's on the other team, we lost.
Yeah, Zeri does shoot with her finger gun.
I played some support in those games, and I was mostly bad, but
Zeri would have been absolutely oppressive with Chemtech Rift, so it's really good that they got rid of that. Because she flips over terrain and walls, and then getting to do that and then shoot because your ability is your autos are an ability. So like shooting people and then like re-entering camo and flog is just like completely toxic.
Her thematic dragon was OP for her, like it was supposed to be prescripted, but you leaked the strats too early.
Both thematic dragons for her are OP. Thank you very much. Hextech is also a huge problem.
If only she had the opportunity.
The gates aren't
to move
as
up
big
in
of a
society.
Deal. Yeah.
Arcane lore buff is too strong.
Yep, I don't even remember what I played. I played Morgana. I had some sick bindings. I played Blitzcrank and missed like every hook I threw the entire game.
That's how you.
It took him like 15 minutes to figure it out. It's all good.
Yeah, you just got to hit one.
Well, as Eric noticed, I was like 5 Teemos short every time. Like I couldn't feel it out right, but it was exactly the same thing every time, so I was consistent. But
he's just been like too used to like sparring, you know, in like taekwondo or whatever. So his punches were just like not actually supposed to hit people. It's supposed to, you know, like look like it hits them, so you get the point. Only it's like it turns out as blitzcrank, you actually do need to make contact.
that's
Yeah.
the thing.
It
I'm
happens.
not good at melee supports. This has long been true.
Know thyself.
Look, man, I just play Lux. It's fine.
Lux is fun.
I am a dirty Lux and Vel'Koz support picker. if and when I play support. Anyway, that's about all we got. Oh, and I got bronze in TFT. Yeah, because I
Moving on
played
up.
my ranked placements in TFT. Because
Gucci.
this set's fun as shit. It's good. It's real good.
Hell yeah.
And also to call back to old things, I've been rewatching Arcane with a friend of mine from the tweets and the streets who knows absolutely nothing about the league lore, and it's been a very interesting experience to hear his perspective on stuff and rewatch with him just to see what he's taking away from stuff. He's really enjoyed it so far, but it's just like that it brings something fresh to it from compared to those of us who have been deep in this the whole time.
Yeah, my parents officially was like, "Did you know they made like a League of Legends show?" I was like, "No, they did." I'm glad it made it to their circles. You know, that's a good threshold.
There you go. All right, boys and girls, we will be back to talk about the Lock-In Championship and probably to complain about our fantasy drafts because we have to have a fantasy draft at some point for the LCS and see how that goes for us.
Coordinating 10 people to schedule a line has been something.
It's sure been something. But by the next time we record, we'll actually have our teams, and I will inevitably be complaining about something.
Absolutely, we'll make it a segment to dissect who's winning.
What's your fantasy, baby? All right, this has been Reaction Time. We'll see you in a week or two. Deuces.